Welcome. You are at the CCC,
where there are no outside issues. Hi, I'm Bonnie Violet. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a trans, femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, and digital chaplain, person living with HIV, and also a person in recovery from drugs and alcohol and so many other things. Yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm a 6-year doctoral student in clinical psych. My lips are hella chapped, this one particularly, and I care about you.
and I'm Lulu, and my pronouns are he and him, and I am in recovery for crystal meth and alcohol, former Miss CCC, and I am always in search of balance.
And each week we provide and create a brave space where we can engage in conversations around topics of recovery.
Yes, and our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for those people in recovery.
Before we do that,
by tackling topics used to separate us, or Anthony separating us. Huh?
I don't think Anthony. Yeah, I think Anthony does.
Listen, if there's a lag, I'm gonna assume I'm supposed to fill this space. Did you say your part already? Did you? Okay, so my part is, but before we do that, like, subscribe, and ding that bell.
Ding the bell, absolutely.
So how is everyone?
Well, after that, I'm a little traumatized after that, but that's all good.
Wow.
I'm actually good. It's like this last week, and we're sorry we missed y'all last week, but last week was kind of crazy at work because so many people came down with the COVID, and so I had to, I was a worker among workers. I had to show up, and it's good. Other than that, things have been really good.
Cool. How about you, Bonnie Violet? Can she hear us?
I think she's frozen.
Yeah, I think she's frozen. Okay, while we're waiting for her to come in, I can talk a little bit. This has been, I'm still writing. It's been a pretty stressful week, but I've been taking it in stride. I've just kind of like buckled down around my program, like bookending my days. And so that's been pretty cool. I also just kind of wanted to put a quick bug out there for folks that are listening in about the ideas we've been throwing around on days that we can't be on air. So I don't know, it would be interested. I'm interested. We're interested in maybe some ideas that you have about what we can do with that time. Maybe we can record some stuff offline and film it during those times. I mean, cast it during those times. Any number of things. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, play old episodes so that if you didn't get a chance to kind of hear it when it was first run. Bonnie, are you back with us?
Are you back? I feel like I'm watching a silent film.
I know. I see her move a little, but I don't think she's with us.
Yeah, maybe we can just wait for her to continue and just have her jump in.
Yeah, exactly.
So today's she's gone. So today's topic, we're very excited because it actually came in through our
Speak Pipe.
Our Speak Pipe.
Oh my God, I know. It's like if you've been watching, you know what we've been going through with the Speak Pipe, trying to get people to participate.
Yeah, so we're really excited to introduce today's topic. We'll play the recording and then we'll take it from there.
So step 9 says, may direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. I'm wondering, what do you consider injuring people or injuring others? Thank you.
Thank you to whoever that person was that left that message. So just in case you didn't catch that, the question was around the 9 steps. So the 9 step for folks who are not familiar with the 12 step is may direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And then the caller was asking, what do we consider injury to ourselves or other people? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Good summary. So I feel like there's like the direct, like the immediate definition of what it means to injure someone, and there's the more subtle things. What's your experience with the 9 step?
Well, I think what's really important for us, or for me to pay attention to, is what I learned is just what I think was injurious to people or what I think was good for people. I just need to throw that all out. What it comes down to is that the other person who is injured has to be a part of the process to say what it is. So I can't determine what might injure them. Like, there are obvious things. I can, if I'm a total dick, if I'm whatever, but there may be other subtle things. I don't know about anybody's life experiences, how they experience anything that I may have put upon them. So it's like, I really feel like it's a matter of like, we have the willingness to do something about it, but we need to find out from those individuals. Hey, how did I? This is how I showed up. What did I do wrong? And how can I make it better?
Yeah.
Hi, Bonnie.
Bonnie Violet, are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Aw. We were just telling folks that we're talking about the 9 step, and my last question to Lewis was, what's his experience with the 9 step?
And we played the speak pipe, and so the question that was presented was, what is considered harming others, or what is considered harm? That's in a nutshell.
To yourself. What I wanted to say is I wanted to take it out of the 12-step context. So, what is the purpose of making an amends, right? The purpose of making an amends is to build a bridge or to bring two things together. So regardless of what we're calling it, right? It's about how do you heal maybe a transgression. And what I like about the spirit of the 9 step is that it says you don't get to heal at somebody else's expense and vice versa.
Yeah.
Right. My first experience with that was very early sobriety. I was in another relationship and I was cheating. And at the time, I remember talking to my sponsor about it. It's also kind of complicated because the relationship was open, but I was still cheating technically.
That's another story.
Anyway, that's a whole other story. But
Tell us more.
But the point is that I thought to myself, like, well, I know how this works. Like, now I have to go tell my boyfriend that I cheated on him and it's going to be this dramatic thing. And then my sponsor says to me, no, you don't get to hurt that person in order to absolve yourself of some guilt. Right. And that was the first time I think I fully understood what it meant to not injure myself or someone else. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It makes me next week we're going to be talking about this relationship. This is pretty cool.
About what relationship?
No, with the one you just talked about. It's in the whole scenario. We want the story.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that's so I think where wisdom comes with getting into the program and learning amends versus just trying to say I'm sorry or making amends prior to really kind of having the wisdom or the guidance to go through. I had a situation, I guess it wasn't quite 9 step, but it put something on my on something. And that was when I got sober, a little trend here, I cheated on my boyfriend. And I got sober, and then there was this craziness, right? And my boyfriend at the time wanted to know who I slept with, because I told him that I had cheated on him, but I didn't say who, and my sponsor was a new sponsor, and he was like, yeah, you don't get to tell the boyfriend who you slept with, because that's not your business to tell. That's not your thing. And of course I did anyway, because we got in a fight, and he was just adamant that he needed to know, and I kind of gave in because it was to the benefit of, I guess, me in that moment. But in the long run, that person that I slept with was the first person I ever made an amends to. And a big part of that amends was that, I threw you under the bus, basically, when I was, getting sober.
Yeah. I remember years ago I was I was obsessing over this guy, and I remember he was on my 4th step. He's been on my 4th step for years. And I wasn't even at amends, right? And I remember I was talking to my then sponsor, and I said to her, I really feel like I need to make an amends. And she goes, you're still on the 4th step. Why are you trying to jump? And very long story short, what ends up happening is I end up reaching out to him, and I make this amends. It didn't go well. And I think the reason why it didn't go well was because in retrospect, I had hidden intentions. Yeah. I think my intention was I'm going to reintroduce myself into your life, and I'm going to be so apologetic that you're going to fall in love with me. Right. So I had this, it wasn't an amends. There was I had an ulterior motive.
Yeah, I want to jump in and say, okay, so I know that it's a trend with you two cheaters, but
Oh, mm-hmm.
but see, no, I have always thought that I'm a monogamous person. I just didn't want to be monogamous, so I chose not to be in a relationship. But I think honestly, to be fair, if I were in a relationship, especially while I was using, I probably would have cheated. So
yeah, I mean, I only have myself to blame for sharing that on air.
no, it's all good.
I had to cheat. I had to cheat in order to get sober.
No,
Yeah.
I thought it was beautiful. I was thinking while you were sharing, I was thinking this is really kind of raw. It's open and honest. I mean, because it's not an easy thing to talk about. But I think
But
that
now, are you feeling shame all of a sudden, Anthony? Because I
Yeah,
wasn't before.
I'm like, man, I was like trying to be vulnerable, and then in comes from the cuts and.
I think.
What do you think?
Well, I love what you said about like taking it out of the 12-step concept. But I think what's beautiful about the 12 steps is we get to say they're in order for a reason. I can't start on the 12th step and end up at the 9th step. There's a reason why I do all of the work so that I know why I'm wanting to change. Because there are some people that I'm done fucking with them, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and my amends, probably the best amends I can make to them is to stay away from them, you know? And again, I'm not doing the, I can't make myself feel better to hurt somebody to make myself feel better. I'm not doing that. But back to the speak pipe, I feel like, okay, so with the way we do our amends, that question isn't really answered until you do the amends. And then you say, hey, okay, so this is what I did, this is what I did, and this is how I want to change. Is there anything else that I may have forgotten? So as much as you might think, like, because you may be surprised that sometimes we haven't hurt anybody, or sometimes we've heard them at the core, and we didn't even know that what we did was hurt. And so it is not an easy thing to define. It depends on people. Why are you looking at me? You know what? I'm going to need an amends after this.
I'm listening.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say the other thing that's really important about amends is that you are in a position in which you know enough about what you did and you're well enough and healed enough from where you harmed somebody that you don't do it again. And that's the part why, there's the 8 steps before, because like I know for me, it's like I had to do some work to really get a good understanding of one, what it was that I did to harm someone, but also, hurt people. And so I had to heal some things and I had to really come to understand some things. So I actually had the capacity and the ability and the awareness to not cheat again. Just to kind of take it back to that level.
Yeah, I want to take it back there too. I think when I think about like my behavior when I was cheating and how that showed up on my 4th step, I was thinking about a lot of the lies that I was telling myself. Like I was telling myself I was a monogamous person when at the time I wasn't a monogamous person. I was telling myself that like maybe subconsciously that there was something shameful about the kind of sex that I wanted to have. And so in order to do that, I had to kind of be like really secretive. But I think what's great about the way we get to the 9th step is that we generally pull things from the 4th step to go to the 9th step. So just let's pause there for a second. So for folks who are not familiar with 12th step, the 4th step is basically when you look at your life and all the things you may be upset about or people you may be angry about. And at some point you find your part. And when you find your part, you go down the steps, and at some point you'll make an amends if it's appropriate. So there are different guidelines about when it's appropriate to actually try to make an amends with someone. So with that, like in the end, I think I made an amends to myself, and my sex life opened up. And I think the other part of that too is that in making an amends, it's a constant growing, I think, like Bonnie Violet, you were saying earlier, we like kind of commit to not repeating the thing that we're like apologizing for or making amends for.
So
yes,
I guess I'll tell you, jumping in on you, this whole idea, what's the difference between an amends and I'm sorry? My mom used to say, when I say I'm sorry. Yeah, you're sorry. You're sorry. You're damn right. You're sorry.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah, different. Go ahead.
I don't know that an I'm sorry doesn't like it's not it doesn't really do anything. Like there's not like what are you sorry about? And I think even if you like can say I'm sorry that I hurt you in this way and that way and I did this and that, that's one thing. But like if I'm gonna continue to do it, like that's the I think that's the difference. I think the other part with amends too is that you're considering the other person and what it is that they want in order to feel like you are sorry or that you are actually like feel bad for what you did. So I think that's the other kind of part is like there it involves the other person. It's not just about trying to make yourself feel good about the situation or the moment. Hi Krista, first time listener. Glad you
Yay!
Oh,
could join
welcome,
us.
Chris.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
You know, it's so that what my sponsor told me in amends, the difference between amends and I'm sorry. Like when I'm making amends, I can say I'm sorry, but an amends is a change in behavior. It's a look. It's looking at the behavior that and how you showed up and showing and making change. And that's why, like, when I make amends to myself, that amends to myself, like when I first stopped drinking, using, and showing up for myself, that was like a living amends that I could make on a complete regular. I said sorry so many times when I was using.
Mhm.
I said sorry so many ways and I didn't mean it. And so it had no weight. There was no integrity to those words for me. And so
Yeah.
why would somebody who knew that that's going to be my go to even listen to it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jaylon agrees with you as well in the comments.
Jaylon says, I believe with the amends, there has to be a significant change in behavior. Otherwise, it's bullshit.
I can hear Jalen saying that.
Here,
Right?
here.
I call bullshit.
I call
I-
exactly.
I wanted to talk a little bit too about like the spirit of the 9th step, which is ultimately forgiveness, right? Like, I think, and to speak to the earlier question, it's, I think maybe another way that I was thinking about it is that like the making an amends is it's an actual like mending, like there's an actual effort to weave stories maybe where an apology, I don't know, there's a place for an apology, but an apology just feels, I don't know, at least when I'm thinking about it now, when I think about an apology, what I'm saying is like I feel this thing, like it's almost like a punishment, like I feel this thing,
Yeah.
I have remorse, and I think there is value in experiencing or having remorse.
Well, I think now since we all had some time working a program for ourselves,
Mhm.
that now when I apologize, it's different than when I did it when I was drinking and using. When I was drinking and using, I think like like you're saying, I didn't feel anything. It's like I need to get out of this mess, and so I would say sorry.
Right.
I'll get some money or something from this person because usually it was like I was working an angle.
When you
Right,
were
right.
when you would apologize.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, come on, because it's like I doubt very seriously if you get caught with your pants down, doing something or whatever. I'm sorry, like you said to my mom, I'm sorry in hopes that I don't get my ass beat. But the truth of it is, I'm not really sorry. I'm just hoping that this works in my favor so that I'm okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hi, Anna. Brandon, the producer, says, when I make an amends, I also offer to do whatever I can to make things right with the other party. Finn also,
Absolutely.
Finn
When's he
also
gonna
says,
make us? No,
what's that?
no, I said, when is he gonna make an amends to us?
Oh, well, behavior has to change first, probably on our end too. Finn says, so often I'm sorry. Is just a placeholder for don't be mad at me anymore. Yeah.
It's like self-serving. I hear that.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Finn.
Yeah.
I think there's more of a I think it seems like amends, there's like more of a formality and like it's more of a formal process than saying I'm sorry. And I mean, a big part of, I think one of the things in the question, if I recall correctly from SpeakPipe, was like, how do you know about harm? And I think harm is something that takes a while to really figure out how you are harming someone or something, because we often like for me, I often have to have blinders to cause the harm that I've harmed. I very rarely intentionally meant to hurt somebody or cause pain, but I did it. And so Oftentimes I need somebody else to help me really understand what harm is. Harm can also be relative, and harm can sometimes be measured between other things. Like, I think maybe it's in a big book or I read it somewhere, but it's the idea of like, if let's say part of my amends would be, I think would be like to turn myself in for stealing shit or something like that. But if I were to do that, I would go to prison, and then I wouldn't be able to take care of my kids, and I wouldn't be like, I don't know what the right or wrong answer to that, but that, I think that just goes to show is that there might not be like a clear cut, like black and white kind of, this is something that needs to be made amends, and then how you go about it, because part of the amends process isn't just, okay, go throw me in jail. There might be another way that you can make amends
Yeah, absolutely.
for what you did.
Exactly.
Right. I was thinking too about the way the kind of formula works. At least the way I was taught how to make an amends is that the first part of your amends is you're just sticking to the facts and only your part. You're never trying to include the other person's part. It's only your part, only the facts. And then the second part of that is what Brandon was saying is like, and you offer the opportunity to make it right. You can ask the other person, okay, given what I've done and what I'm owning, how can I make this right? So there is like I think the formula is designed in a way to reduce the amount of harm that's done. I think in the communication, because even when you're bringing something up, like even the rehashing of something can be really harmful.
Yeah, I think that's why you really have to be in that place. That you can't be still in a place where you're hurting or you're smarting from what somebody did. You got to be able to listen objectively and hear what they say and take it in. I was going to add one of the things that I did not see as harm when I was drinking and using it was in my mind, I wanted to protect the people that I love, so I stayed away from them. And I steered clear, and they didn't really get to see me when I was doing my thing. But what I didn't realize was that I was keeping them from my life. I was keeping them from me, and that didn't stop the worry and all of those other things. And I feel like it was selfish, and that was a tough one to take in, because I'm all, oh, but I thought I was doing you a favor, but in turn, really what I was doing was, I was keeping you from loving me.
It's silent scorn, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Well,
silent scorn.
I don't know that it's silent scorn, because I've done silent scorn. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Where I judge you I judge what you do, and then I just stop talking to you. No, it
Right.
was like, I
Well,
love you, and I'm not gonna, but I'm gonna stay here because I feel like I'm a mess and I don't have anything of value to bring to your life.
Yeah. Well, and that's the element of thinking about what's going to make you feel better about this situation without realizing that, maybe your dad is going to worry about you because they haven't heard from you, or your mom is going to, like, you know what I mean? And so I think when you're making that amends, you're really kind of taking into consideration what other people, what they need from the relationship or the conversation, versus like you just kind of being so selfish and self-centered in the relationship, or kind of, you know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
takes communication.
I think the other part to that for me too is, and this is in the big book, I think the word is grovel. Like it says clearly, like, we are children of God. We crawl before no one, right? Like I think that, I don't know if it's crawl, but like the
Wow.
idea is that just because we are apologizing for something does not mean that we somehow then become subordinate to this other person. Like we are still children of God. Which I think is like the other thing that's really important to hold when we're thinking about an amends. Personally, like when I came in, I felt like shit because of all the like shitty things I had done, like cheating and like lying. and and so I felt so shitty. And to me, the idea, if I thought too far ahead, the idea of apologizing just felt like I was just reinforcing this like really shitty narrative, but that's not the point of an amends. The point of the amends was to heal myself and to find value, right? Like it was just another esteemable act that I had never done before. And so an amends can actually be this like very restorative thing that happens. And that way that like the 12 steps can be really magical. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you're ready for it, like an amends should feel more humbling than humiliating. And that's what the steps afford us, the ability to do that.
Each time
There-
it's like I say with my sponsors, each time that you do something, especially like setting boundaries or doing things that are good for you, it becomes like second nature. And so it is not a, like you said, it's an empowering thing to acknowledge where you were wrong, to walk directly into the truth of the situation and speak your truth, but be willing to make amends. I mean, that's where your power comes from if you have any, you know?
Yeah. And it's
Right.
really where all the heavy lifting happens,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I was like, when you go through the steps for the first time, and if you're not thinking within the step, when you look at your own shit for the first time, so say you're in therapy, that's very heavy lifting if you've never done that before. And then when you get to the point where like you're trying to make amends with people, or you're trying to apologize and right your wrongs, that by itself is a lot of heavy lifting. But what I like about the way the steps are designed is once you do all of that stuff from the very beginning, either in 12 step or in your personal life, after that it does get easier, right? So for after the 9 step, we get to the 10 step where we're basically doing all of these mini inventories of ourselves, right? So we're basically reducing the likelihood that we'll ever have to make all of these giant amends again.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
There.
that, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say there's a lot of really great stuff happening in the comments. There was one question from Greg that I thought would be a good question for you all. I'm sorry. Um, I have an amends to make to someone who has passed away. Writing a letter just doesn't seem sincere. Any suggestions?
Isn't it a combination? Okay, so the letter is a great place to start, but the amends that I think that I've made to people who I can no longer speak to, I don't have access to, is how I'm living my life today.
Hmm.
It's like because it's almost like the way my higher power works is if I can't make the amends to you, somebody in my life is going to show up and I'm going to repeat some of that same
Mhm.
action, and then I'll be able to make
Yeah.
them. So it's a lot of it, like I say, is a living amends. It's like, what is it that you did, and how can you do it differently when you approach a situation? Because a lot of it's like a merry-go-round. You're gonna come back to certain behavior if you don't address it. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I forget. I saw a second name come in. I really appreciate
Anna.
it. Which was it? Anna? Was that Anna? Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I just wanted to read it aloud. So, depending on the situation, I would do a living amends or create a ritual that helps you move forward.
Yeah.
I think love is the
Anna, it's like, did
endearment.
you see Anna's thumbnail, the picture? It's like
The
I
photo is like
did
giving.
not, but I have
yeah,
really, I did not, but I have really bad ADHD, so I'm going to go back to the idea that I almost forgot. So the word that I think is really interesting that you use was the word sincere. And
Mhm.
to me, that seems really interesting to me, because my first thought is like that's a very kind of close and intimate feeling, and it makes me wonder like what is it that you need to feel close to that person, right? And maybe you're not writing a letter, but you're putting yourself in a situation where you actually have that closeness, and maybe that just looks like a prayer or a conversation. I don't know.
Right.
also,
Yeah. And
also ready. Are you ready to make that amends?
Yeah.
Because if you feel like, especially, there seems to be some immediate, an emergency to if someone's passed on to make the amends, and the truth of it is
mm,
like if you're not ready to make the amends, or if you don't understand why you're making the amends, it's okay to not make. And they even say this in the book. It's okay to put it off, but it doesn't mean forever. It just means
r-
that you put it on the shelf until you're able to kind of understand why, and then I believe that's going to address the sincerity.
Mhm.
right. Well, I think that's, one of the things I've noticed that in time I come to understand more and more of something. So I think it was really great that you pointed that out, Anthony, the choice of the word sincere. And that might be something for, Greg, for you to kind of like, meditate on and think on. Is there something, because there's probably just something more you could do. And I think Anna referred to a lot of that, but I think there's probably some intentionality action, other action that could be taken. Like, so I know, Lulu, you mentioned like a living amends, which living amends is great, but I think it's important to be like, okay, I'm going to live in this way because of so and so or such and such. And so I don't know the situation. Maybe it's about, sometimes you can donate like to a fund, like to an organization, you can volunteer on behalf or in a way to support people who've been harmed in the same way as that person was harmed by you.
Mhm.
You also might be able to create like some sort of art or like do you there it does I think to me, I think the key, like Anthony says, is there's probably something more for you to do for this person. And maybe part of that is maybe for your own experience, obviously, but maybe also you know that that person might want something more or something differently done in order to really, experience that amends. So I think that's a really great observation, Anthony.
Thanks. And
Yeah.
I was thinking too about, we say really early on in the big book that we cease fighting everyone and everything, including alcohol.
The 10
And I
step
think,
promise.
yeah. And so I think that cease fighting also has to do with like, we cease fighting our ideas about right and wrong, right? Like I constantly have to remind myself that I've done a third step, that I have turned my will and my care over to a power greater than myself. And if I really believe that I'm not grappling and trying to solve things all the time, and when I find myself in a situation where I'm like trying to figure out like what is the best way of doing something, I immediately think, well, not immediately, I'm not like a fucking saint, but my first thought is like on my best days, oh, I'm in self-will right now, because in my experience, the best things have happened when I haven't planned. The best things have happened when I've been of service, or I'm in prayer, or I'm in meditation, or I'm literally just doing the next right thing rather than trying to like war with my thoughts or my feelings.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's really beautiful. Greg and Anna hang out.
Oh, do they?
That time
Yeah.
together, you guys are gonna, you two are
They
going to
could
be.
be like sitting next to each other as far as we know. Hi,
Yeah.
Erica. We're getting a lot in the chats today. It's so great to have so much
Hi.
Yeah, we
interaction.
don't see any because Brandon isn't pushing him through.
No, don't put it on Brandon. I'm just cheating because we agreed to a different way. So I've just been getting hung up on the comments. There is one from Jaylon.
Oh, Jaylon says.
I also think it's important to not get defensive in the amends process and redisplay the same behavior we're trying to amend. But sober. In the literature, it says we caused harm, period. Just would seem pointless, harmful, and counterproductive to be upset when being held accountable.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that goes to your earlier point is like, are you ready to make
Are
that
you ready?
amends?
'Cause it's
If you're
like,
if
You
you're
ain't
gonna pop
ready.
off, you're
Yeah.
not.
No, because I've had it way too often. We talked about it a bunch after I had the situation in Palm Springs with a good friend. I wasn't ready. I was pissed off because I
Yeah.
still thought that I didn't have a part in it. It's like I was
Right.
It took a few months. It took a little longer than a few months, and we're really good now.
I think one of the things that I started doing with the men's process that I didn't do before, sorry, is I fucking prayed.
Mm.
Like I really prayed before I talked to that person, which for me was like, I mean, not for that, but for the situation. I was like praying, bitch, like, please do this right. Please
That
show
bar.
up and please have the effect. You know what I mean? That you want. Like, so I think the prayer part, again, believe what you believe, do what you do, but that intentionality or whatever, that preparation, the guidance from higher powers, whether that's some deity in the sky or it's your sponsor named Bob or whatever,
Mhm. And I think, going back to taking it outside of 12 step, I think most people have a desire to not hold on to pain, right? And to not hold on to resentments. And I think in the best of situations, if you're not like following 12 step, you can really work through those kind of things with friends, right? Like you can think about like, hey, I have this thing that's been on my heart and I don't know the best way of going about it, right? Because if nothing else, I think one of the best things about the 9th step and having a sponsor is that you're workshopping something, right? And so you can have a friend say to you like, oh no, that sounds really kind of bitter there, or I can tell you're trying to like actually get back at them here. Yeah.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
or maybe even a therapist or a counselor, huh?
Absolutely.
Therapist, counselor, professional help. Or you can, one of the things that I've heard that people do it with their 4th step, like they call a random central office and they do their 4th step with like a random person on the phone because they'll never talk to them again.
I had a former sponsee reach out and actually want to read a portion of their 4th step with me. And I think sometimes you absolutely, like, if you feel like there's too much, it comes down to trust. It's like comes down to trust and being comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah. Heavy stuff.
Sure.
Heavy stuff.
I've been enjoying the comments. I'm sorry.
I know nothing about those comments because Brandon isn't pushing them
Why
forward.
don't you share one of those comments?
Can you share one of them,
Well,
Brandon?
it's not really, it's just, I love it. I know sometimes when we're here, it seems like it's just the 3 of us and there is literally nobody like talking to us. But it's just been really cool to hear the conversations happening in the comments. They're not necessarily all meant to go directly to us, but just people interacting with each other, the humor, the love.
I like that. I
Yeah, I
love
love
that.
that. So Anka says, I have to hold space for answer to the follow-up question. Quote, is there anything else I may have done to cause you harm? End quote. I've been blown away by people's responses on 2 occasions. You never know.
No, absolutely.
Mm.
That's a very good point.
A lot of
Go ahead.
a lot of people that I talk to, they like, girl, you didn't hurt me. Like that didn't harm me. Or did you have that experience where a lot of people are like, please, like I don't even care.
Absolutely, but I think that this is where this amends process for us is beautiful, because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if the person is receptive to it, they're open to it or not. It is about our action, our willingness to kind of do it. I mean, it's like this is where, like you said, this is where the heavy lifting comes in. When I get to the place where I'm gonna walk to you with egg all over my face and acknowledge that I was not perfect, or that I was flawed in some way, and that I'm not going to turn into a pillar of sand or dust after. I
Yeah.
mean, that for me was a big thing, because I I want I struggled with this idea of loss of what is it when my mom passed, what do you call it,
Grief?
no, well, grief, but when someone leaves, I'll think of it.
Okay.
It's that idea of abandonment.
Mm.
And I surrounded myself with people, and I forgot that I could say no, or that I could set boundaries, because I was afraid I was going to lose people.
Mm-hmm.
And to then get to a place where all of a sudden my voice is coming back, and I wasn't, thank God for a sponsor, but it wasn't completely neat and tidy, but I was able to kind of go to you, even risking having you tell me that I'm that you don't want it, you don't want what I'm bringing to you.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah. I was pulling up the steps because I forgot the sequence. But what I like about the way, so 6 and 7, we identify our character defects, or we identify those like maladaptive patterns, and we become intimately familiar with them, and then we turn those over to God. I think that part is so crucial to making an amends. And for me, I think it's crucial because that's where like a lot of the heat lives, like a lot of like the resentment and the bitterness. And if I can make peace, if I can accept myself, my part in all of those things, then I'm not really relying on another person to make me feel okay. Right. Because I think that's also been something, in the past, where I'll apologize to someone, but really what I want is to be absolved of whatever feeling I have, which we talked about earlier. So should we start wrapping up?
I mean, we got like maybe a couple minutes.
Greg says, for me, it's easier for me to own my part, apologize, and living amends, but it's so much harder for me to forgive myself. What I like about the 12 steps is that there's always more work to do.
You like that? Lies. Nobody likes that.
The way he
I was reading with the punctuation and the letter.
More work to do. Right on.
I think one.
Go ahead.
I just really wanted to like say something that's like the men's process, or the product of amends is like such a gift. When I first did my first round, my father was somebody that I didn't think like, and I have a whole nother set of resentments now, but like I thought my dad had harmed me more than I ever could have like harmed him. And I was able to my amends with my father was just to be able to be like real with him about where I was at, and to just tell him that I loved him, and that and the things that I did appreciate about him. And in some ways that was like my amends process, and it was so helpful. So I mean, I think, and that's something I don't think I could have figured out on my own, but thankfully to working with a sponsor and lots of prayer and writing and stuff, by the time it comes around, like for me, whenever it was time to actually do an amends, I was ready. And like I didn't really have the fear or the confusion or the whatever that had always kind of, come along with being in relationship with that person. And so I think it's really important And I think one of the things we said too is that there's steps, but I think also sometimes 9 steps just happen, and I think higher power puts them in your lives, and sometimes they may put it in your lives before you've done all the work, but at least try to check in with somebody who has done amends so they could maybe guide you in that process. Because people do get sick and like or leave or things happen in non-timely manners, and there's ways to kind of come up with a solution before having to wait until your nine steps.
Yeah. What a
Sorry.
lovely conversation.
No,
What a
definitely,
lovely
definitely.
conversation. So we have 5 minutes left. So how can the people get a hold of us?
Well, you can always reach me on the Instagram at LouisLou86. I've got some fun pictures there. It's like I've got some pictures of Anthony since he refuses.
And I untagged myself
Yeah.
Oh,
You untagged yourself?
in some of them
Why?
wow.
because I didn't like the way I looked in some of them.
Okay, that's another topic.
I told it
Ooh,
makes
you
me
could
so
tell
stressed.
that hurt. That hurt.
I didn't.
So-
You took that personally. Okay.
Not really.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so you can reach me at a queer chaplain on all of the things, or at queerchaplain.org. I'm currently doing a series of drag and spirituality, where I'm interviewing Angel, who is sober, who is a drag queen out of San Diego tomorrow, on my socials. So if you're interested in hearing about that, check that out there.
I'm still at A Lucas CCC on Instagram. Social media makes me very anxious, even when I'm tagged in photos.
Mm.
Okay, are we done?
No, I have
No,
I
we
have
need
my,
to.
I have my
Yeah.
thing to hold on just a second.
Oh wait.
So the Castro Country Club is a clean and sober gathering place for all people and a home for their queer recovery community. We're located in the heart of the Castro district of San Francisco, and we endeavor to be a space where all can seek wisdom, serenity, courage, and joy. And you will find more information at castrocountryclub.org/podcast.
And we'd love to hear from you. We're glad somebody used SpeakPipe. The link to our SpeakPipe is on the screen or in the description. Click on the link and leave us a voice message. Anthony,
I have a line?
you could talk about how people could email us at podcast.
Oh, right. Sorry. So I just got a text message from someone who's listening in, and they say, "Did you really just justify lying to your ex-boyfriend?" Yeah. So if you don't want to do any of the socials, you can contact us at podcast@castrocountryclub.org. Yeah, that's it.
You'll be able to tune in at our new time. Tune in.
No, not our new time. It's our
at our
same
current time. Tuesdays at 4 p.m. where we go live on our Castro Country Club Facebook page and YouTube channels.
Yeah.
And you can listen to us on wherever you listen to podcasts at the CCC.
We love you.
All right. Bye-bye. We're so done.
I'm so tired.
Stick a fork in it.
I'm going to bed.